Okay. Welcome to our Facebook Live with the Shakti Wellness. Let me bring in my other colleague as we wait for people to start strolling in. Tell your friends, tell your family members, share it with your family or friends if you are looking at this or if you look at it later, because I'm sure some of this information is going to hit home and give you some knowledge. So I want to go ahead and get started and introduce myself and introduce my compadre on here today. I am Asha Sims. I am the owner of Shakti Wellness and Yoga. I'm a therapist here and coach, wellness, clinical energy practitioner. My approach to healing is a holistic approach, addressing healing and wellness, mind, body, and spirit, looking at the root cause of issues. So however we look at any issues, if we want to say they are, sometimes I say they're gifts, we want to look at the whole aspect of it and how we treat it. And so this is a topic that has come up just not only professionally, but even personally lately. And so us at Shakti Wellness, my other therapist was supposed to be tuning in. She is also a flight attendant. Just so happened, some flight delays. So I'm going to allow Shay to enter. First, let me just say, I am Asha Sims. I am all those titles too, but I just want to say I am neurodivergent as fuck as well. So I just wanted to start that off with the title today is neurodivergent. Understanding the signs, the quirkiness, and all of that comes with it, and some education about it. So I'm going to introduce my other colleague here with the Shakti Wellness and let her tell you about herself as well. And we'll get into the good stuff of our convo today. Shay? Can't hear you. I can't hear a word you say.
Hi.
Oh, there we go.
Hello,
There we
everyone. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Shay White Joseph. I am neurodivergent and proud of it. Now, let me correction. Neurodivergent AF.
Right. That's it.
All day, every day. Ask somebody. I'm also a physician assistant. I'm a holistic medical and health consultant. I'm an energy healer and a yoga instructor, and I wear a lot of hats as well. So, welcome and thank you for joining us.
And look, and when they wonder how we do so much and wear so many hats, I'm going to attribute it to because I'm neurodivergent. I'm everywhere. I can do many things at one time. Now, finishing them, that's a whole nother thing. But so today, this topic and the work we do, I often like to provide information. If over time with the clients that I see, I'm starting to see the same thing come up. So just recently, in my practice, I also provide clinical supervision to other clinicians. So this whole conversation of ADHD, ADD, some of their clients get misdiagnosed with things, and seeing how we as clinicians had to start doing more research on what is going on with this title, label, however you want to say it is, to make sure we are appropriately giving the right diagnoses to clients and not misdiagnosing. And so now we're hearing the term neurodivergent. What is that? And so we really wanted to talk about giving an explanation of what it is. It may sound like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm not claiming that because it's a word that, is not familiar, but it's one of a thing of educating so you can understand what it is, so you can understand yourself if it is, or understand and support the individuals that may be around you that are neurodivergent, because that's the key thing. We get on our own nerves, so we know we may get on other people's nerves as well about ourselves and how we process and how we deal with things. So in that understanding neurodivergent, that thing. And this is the deep part about it. It's an umbrella. So many different diagnoses can fall up under the umbrella of neurodivergent. You can have often we've heard more the autism spectrum disorder is what we typically heard originally with hearing about neurodivergent. But ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, even bipolar, anxiety disorders, sensory processing disorders, schizophrenia, all of them fall up under the umbrella of neurodivergence. So, with that being said, Shay, this is why I like it at Shakti Wellness. We're holistic. So, we'll go from mental health, and then this my hood doctor over here. No, not the hood, but but so we don't want to get over your heads with all these mental health diagnosis terms and medical things that throw you off. At the end of the day, we need to give the basics of what is going on and what it is, so we would know. So a lot of this is us having traumas and having things, and we're suppressing it and masking it instead of really getting the assistance we need, and it causes more imbalances. So Shay, if you want to break it down to them, we were just talking about, what is neurodivergent? What does that mean at the end of the day with all the different things that are going on? What is it?
Okay, despite what the popular belief may be, I'm sure when people hear the name that they're automatically thinking that it's something negative. You know, that's why mental health and is a huge has a huge delay in our melanated population, because there's always such a negative connotation behind it. And so when you say something like neurodivergent, I'm sure that everyone knows that when you mention the word neuro, you're talking about your thinking process, your brain. And basically that's just what it is. You have a different way of seeing the world. You're seeing the world differently. So what is negative about that? Because you see the world differently, you don't see the world like most people do. You know, you have a different perspective. Don't everybody have a perspective? So with being neurodivergent, it's just mean that I see the world differently. My children see the world differently, and therefore we process it differently. The root cause of our the neurodivergent, it's like Asha had mentioned earlier, it's more than likely a great degree of trauma. You know, childhood trauma, possibly, or
ancestral trauma.
Or even in utero trauma, you know, dealing with generational trauma, a trauma from your parents. So basically, that's what it is. You just think differently, you see things differently, and there's no right or wrong with that. There's nothing negative about that.
And I think that's the most important thing, because I know even, you know, and looking at clients, looking around on it, we have to understand, I think this is the key part, especially parenting at this point in time, and where things can get misconstrued, because how it's showing up and how it looks sometimes is different. And it can show up for some being lazy. That's how it appears. You know, you're just junky, you're just this, or, you know, never listen to what I have to say. So a lot of the traits that show up with it, people are ashamed of feeling it, so they mask. You feel it's automatic. There's an underlying, you feel different, but you don't know why you feel different. So you put the mask on and you start to socially imitate in certain things to portray, which can lead to imposter syndrome. A lot of people that have deal with neurodivergent deal with imposter syndrome, because it's a different from someone doing things and not even caring. Most they're extra sensitive, so they really care and they want to do it right, and they don't want to do it wrong because they don't like how it feels when it's not, or they don't have the ability to communicate it. And it's like you're stuck. So it may look like temper tantrums if you verbally can't do it.
Right.
Or as many adults have meltdown, children or adults have meltdowns. Emotionally, they just can't handle anymore. They're yelling, and we're looking at them like, what's wrong with them? And it's just that they got emotionally overloaded. And I think this is important now, because as a parent, and I'm seeing the difference of the generations where it's showing up more. At this point, it's becoming more prominent. It's not that it hasn't been around, because this is genetic. It is showing up. Neurodivergence is a part of the ancestral lineage.
Right.
So even though we're just now hearing about these titles, I know me being born in the 70s, uh, my parent generation may have had some of these same symptoms. They just didn't have a name and a title for it at that time, especially if a lot of these diagnoses are some of the root is coming from trauma, like you said. So I think it's important because I hear so many parents that have these kids on their kids like, I can't do school. It's too much, I need to go home, or I'm sick, and it looks at social anxiety, and you want to say, man up, go to school, ain't nothing wrong with you, but internally they're highly sensitive, they can't. So what we were saying earlier, we got to release the stigma. We have to be educated about what it is and what's occurring, instead of lowering self-esteem by saying you lazy and you're no good as a parent, or then saying my child needs help. This is the thing I'm saying, you need to go to a therapist.
Right. But
if your child has a diagnosis of ADHD, autism, anything on the spectrum, it's like reality. 50% may be from you, or 50% may be from the dad, or somewhere up in the lineage. Right. So we cannot just put that title on these children and feel like it's something they're not doing because it's something genetic. So it has to be a mirror effect of taking accountability and looking at self to say possibility. But like we said, what does it look like? You have so many diagnoses. But Shay, if you explain for you, because many people take this title and feel like, oh, that's why I can't go to school, or I'm not good at school, and school is overwhelming. And we'll talk more how it shows up differently for males and females. But I think with you and your achievements, physician assistant, tell them of your journey on how your diagnosis came back, because we need to understand this is not just thinking as people this way, they're not intelligent. You can be highly intelligent and still have this diagnosis. So would you share with your journey of awareness and your diagnosis and when you got your diagnosis?
Sure, I certainly will. And actually, I'd like to start out by saying that I'm just glad that I have a name for it now. I've always known that I was different. I have always known that school has always been a challenge for me. I didn't know why. And because people don't hear the word neurodivergent often, they chalk it off as that you're stupid or you're dumb, or she's black, she's melanated, what do you expect, or whatnot. And then there's so many labels that are negative, being that words are so powerful, that's what kind of ushers that individual, and I can speak for myself, into that imposter syndrome that you mentioned, trying to fake it and try to make it, knowing that, okay, maybe at that particular time, back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, well, maybe I'm not smart. Maybe it is because, I'm dumb or something like that. But fast forward, here I am, a grown woman, having achieved medical school and other degrees. And then I look back and I think about the challenge that I went through to actually get to that point. So for me, I wasn't diagnosed with a label until I was in PA school, or headed toward PA school, that I can remember. And that label was dyslexic. But fast forward, studying, my major in undergrad was psychology, and studying about the different issues that fall under that umbrella, we came across ADHD. I'm like, oh yes, I definitely got that. And if you guys can look now, I hadn't sat still since I've been on camera. You see me spinning around and moving around, and that's just part of what ADD looks like for me. And you better be lucky I ain't got up and just walked out the room.
I had to remind you of today. Look. And that's it. You have to understand, if you have neurodivergent friends, you have to understand how they think and not be offended and thinking they're just like, she don't care about this.
Right. Which
she was at Walmart, y'all. This is what I'm talking about. We had a conversation at 8:00 this morning, and then I said, "Are you ready?" Oh, it's not in the next hour, is it? So it shows up. This is the thing we have to realize. But go ahead with your story.
So When I think back in grade school, my first memory takes me back to second grade, Northside Elementary School, a spelling test. I had no idea what I was doing, didn't know the words. Grades was okay, but as I got older, they struggle because when you become older, other than past elementary school, you go into middle school, you're in your teenage years, there's like peer pressure, there's boys, there's so many factors that distract you. So try having those distractions and also being neurodivergent. Mine started out with my studying habits. I could study, but I wasn't retaining what I was actually taking in. So over the years, in order to be successful, one of the things that I adapted was that when I read, I had to write down what I was reading. And then after that, if it didn't stick, I would have to go back and read it again and actually highlight what I was reading. And if that didn't work, I would go back and make an outline. So studying for me was a full day process. And my highest determination was that I wasn't going to let anybody pass me or succeed me. I'm going to prove to people if I'm not dumb, I'm not stupid, even though I really felt that way because those were the labels that was put on us during that time, because neurodivergent wasn't even in the scene, even though it's been around. It's just something that people don't know about. So fast forward, before physician assistant school, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that's what it is, along with that little ADD. And then here I am now, learning more about neurodivergent, and I feel a sense of resolve, a sense of release and relief that I'm not dumb, I'm not stupid.
Right.
I can see the world differently. I process things differently. And as a physician assistant, I hadn't killed anybody, so
no major meltdowns. But that's
exactly,
even more
meltdowns.
right.
So I had to actually work harder to get my accolades. And it's still hard to this day because I still have issues, and especially if I'm stressed, overwhelmed, or if I'm triggered because of past trauma, my neurodivergency gets worse. And that looks like short-term memory loss, not able to keep up with the days of the week, maybe a little clumsiness, a little fatigue, lethargic, just not remembering what my daily routine should be like or look like. And then how do I help that? What do I do to help that? I'm an energy healer. I do energy work on myself. I'm a yoga instructor. I do yoga. With yoga comes breath work and meditation. And that has helped to kind of make my journey with neurodivergency a little easier. So now, that's, it started out with ADD. It started diagnosed with dyslexia, and now neurodivergency, which is the bigger umbrella that those diagnoses kind of fall under.
Right. And I think even more to add on this, speaking as women of this prime ripe age, menopause, because what we're seeing that many women, when we get the diagnosis like ADHD and things, it's more common early on in the young males, the boys, and how they tend to be more outward, oppositional, the moodiness, and how it shows up. But females is more internal. And like you were saying, it wasn't that you had behavior problems, but you may have struggled your grades may not have been A and B, but because you weren't failing, it's like, oh, okay. It was like no attention over there. You don't cause any problems of behavior. So it's kind of like out of sight. No issues, you're good. But on the inside is where we deal with that. And am I doing enough? Am I doing it right? So what is interesting, a lot of women are getting diagnosed with ADD later on in life, and particularly around menopause. So now you have a mixture of hormonal issues and the neurodivergent that shows up. So if people are not educated, the healers, the medical field, and doing further research and understanding this, it's so many misdiagnoses that can be made.
Absolutely.
A lot. And to me, even more at the root of it, when we talk about the root issue of this, is trauma. And some people may say, I didn't have trauma as a birth, but it could be trauma in your lineage. When we talk about
Right.
emotional, like a emotional regulation that's
Right.
in you,
Right.
and you haven't been through any trauma, but you go from 0 to 10 emotionally.
Right.
It may not be your experience, but it could be some ancestral genetic traits. Epigenetics is real. And so that's why I say we all have to really look at ourselves. So that overstimulation, that hypersensitivity, lack of emotional control, grown women and grown men temper tantrums, lack of accountability, sometimes not want to accept you did something wrong because you're already internally beating yourself up. So it looks as if we're breeding a culture of narcissists,
Right.
or narcissism, but it's a thing of how we're processing ourselves and
Right.
how we're taking the information in, and how does that look? Because what we were saying, what is the normal? And that's what bothered me about this, is because even in the school systems, is if you see that you're willing to put these plans together to help accommodate them to be successful in that environment. But what we're seeing, this is not just a select few of people. This is a lot of people that deal with this. So why are we having them to conform to a certain environment that they're not thriving in? Where is the normal? Where is the abnormal? And I think this is where the education comes in. If you are a hypersensitive and emotionally stimulated person, we got to go to what you feel.
Right. Right.
You know?
And it's good to know. It's good to know. It's good to have a name to it now, because if I didn't have a name to it, I think that would impede upon the issues that I already have, with that's a result of trauma now, and being able to be in a space and around people where I can speak up about it and say, oh, that's me, you got that too.
Right. Instead of hiding behind it. And that's that symptom that we see when sometimes when you see people medically, or I'm seeing the mental health, sometimes the symptoms they're dealing with is one, how their bodies is responding to this internal anxiety. Like we said, the lack of sleep. We have to realize with neurodivergent, some of the basic functions of the body does not function like everybody else, because it's how the brain is being wired.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, something is going on that is causing this shift in our neurodevelopmental development. We can't pass the blame. To me, it could be evolution. We don't know what we're evolving to, because like you were saying, neurodivergent, it's a heightened sense of awareness. To me, that's a gift. But if you're not in an environment where people can make you feel safe and energy, then it's going to feel like a curse. But to me, it's a gift. You was going to say something?
But you said it's a heightened sense of awareness. And what does that fall under the category of? An empath. Empaths are very sensitive to their surroundings and the situations and the environment and problems. They're very sensitive, and they actually process it different. Where you may be angry about one thing, me processing, looking at all perspectives, I can see why that person did what they did and said it. Not that I agree. It's just that.
But it's how you were processing it at that time. Right.
Absolutely. And for me, I'm just thinking as I was listening to you talking, the best way I can describe my processing when I'm learning is I can liken it to someone who is totally blind and have their fingertips on Braille, and they can read by the finger pads. They don't have to see with their eyes. They can read words, by the use of Braille. And my brain is like that. I can read words, I can sound out words, but they don't stick. The only way it sticks in my brain, in my conscious and my subconscious, is that I write it down as if I can't see it all. And and it's almost like Braille to me. I have to write it down in order for it to stick in my brain, or I have to put a bright color around it, a highlighter or an outline. It has to look like something.
For it to stand out.
I have to put a form to it for it to stand out in my head. Same with conversations. If I'm not able to write it down, trust me, this whole conversation I'm stuck with one word: umbrella, imposter syndrome,
and that's
neurodivergent. And I process all that and I bring it together in a way that fits me.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I've
that's
been very
why
successful. I graduated
you
undergrad
did it.
with a
You got your degree. That's
psychology.
why we can't say it's a disability. You can't do it.
Right.
It's just understanding what it is to use
Absolutely.
the tools. And so now, as we talked about, so many kids or in the schools getting diagnosed, well, guess what? It is now a generation of adults with
Right.
this that are
Right.
no longer in school getting therapy or counseling, that's trying to normalize it, but are still dealing with these behaviors. And because the
Right.
older you get, is more difficult to diagnose it, because it's so many other traits associated with it that becomes is more internalized as well. It's not as an outward presentation.
Right.
But at
Right.
least 60-80% people with ADHD are also autistic.
Yes.
They
Yes.
cross that, but doesn't mean if they're autistic they're ADHD. It doesn't mean just because you're ADHD you are, but often on that spectrum, like this is a whole spectrum now that it could cross reference. So we have to
Right.
have a model of how we work with people and understanding that. So that's why it's even, but this is where it's getting deep, because now in the workplace,
Right.
if you have this diagnosis of ADHD, because it's a set disability, yeah, that FMLA and how they treat you in the workplace is totally different. They're having
It
to
really
put
is.
plans of action in place. They can't just fire you if they know. Now, that is a good thing and a bad thing, because I've heard of certain jobs that will not hire you if you have a diagnosis, that because of the accommodations they will legally have to be put in place for that. But
Right.
it is becoming something that we have to realize, and adults are not realizing what it is and why. And even more as an adult, and this is the thing, because we look at our youth and we get frustrated with the generation, like, I don't want to go to school, I don't mind doing online school, and I don't have to deal with all this. But one thing about neurodivergent people, 9 to 5s,
Sorry.
it causes stress. 9 to 5s, being in a certain environment that's going against how you think and are, it throws you off. And that's why some people, if they work 9 to 5s, get nothing done in the 8 hours that they work. But late at night, in the wee hours between 12 and 2, they can get a whole 8 hours worth of work done. And it's interesting because with that, the how you sleep, your sleeping habits are often off. They're more awake at night than they are during the daytime. It's very interesting. But within that, employers have to now be supportive of those that have a diagnosis of neurodivergent ADHD and put those plans in action. So it can be a benefit or not. But if you're at work and you're having a hard time performance, you're getting anxiety because you got rolled up, which makes you shut down even more. You can't work under pressure. Now that is real. And so that's why I say we have to educate ourselves on this to understand.
And accommodations can be made for even people in the workplace. And if you don't mind, I like to also add sensory sensitivity into this umbrella as well, because that's what it looks like in my children, especially both of my children with sensory sensitivity. One is a little bit more intense than the other, but it helps me. We have to consider that with my generation, I think I'm one generation ahead of what the end of segregation looked like. For my dad, and my parents or whatnot, they grew up in that era towards the end of segregation, where there was a lot of racism and hate messages in the community and environment. And with the birth of me and my siblings in that generation, we have to understand that we're just a generation past that. So when we're not seen as typical normal, what a normal person would be like, whether it's on the workplace or in school or out socializing, we get labeled the negative words. So now at my age and having kids, younger kids at my age, I can see their behavior and show them grace and mercy, because I know that I have that same behavior. They get that from me. They get that sensory sensitivity from me.
And it changes how you parent, because I know I'm the same way. If I know my child is sensory sensitive, and I'm telling him to use emotional regulation and not yell when you're talking, lower your tone, then
Right.
I can't come with that same energy and yelling as well, because it overstimulates them. So as a parent, where you want to go old school and like, this just what it is, da da da, I have
Right.
to realize he's energy sensitive.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
sometimes I have to just remove myself for
Right.
him to calm down. Then it's a win-win. Old school gonna be, you gonna get it right now because I'm the mom, da da da, which
Right.
overstimulates them. So it's like picking and choosing your battles. You have to be aware of your child is not, because they will say why. Old school is like, you don't say why. You just supposed to
Right.
do. Don't question
And
me.
that's the generation I grew up
But
in.
you need to know, so not to do it again, because if it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to them, you just telling them that it's not clicking. So
Right.
we may find, if we're feeling threatened as a parent of lack of control issues that may come up, you may have less behaviors by really explaining why you don't want them to do that, instead of feeling offended and just do it because I say so. Unless you
Absolutely.
really don't know why you said it, and that's your
Right.
answer. Because sometimes I think that's what our parents said. But
Absolutely.
to me,
Absolutely.
that can cause certain
Right.
mental health issues.
Right. So I've learned as an adult, just kind of sit back and observe and watch and say, oh, that's me. So I think looking at the way my son and my daughter behave and interact through life, I can see parts of my sensory sensitivity in each one of them. For example, the way I put on my clothes, my underwear has to go on first, then my bra or my shorts or my pants. And then one day as a toddler, I'm getting Asher out the tub. I'm putting on his shirt first. And he was just not happy with that. He had to put on his pants first.
And that's knowing those, we talk about quirks that may drive us crazy.
Right.
But like, my child does not like lotion. And it bothers me.
But mine don't either.
Feeling on his fingers or tags on his skin.
Right.
So, I think most neurodivergent, we probably can be nudists in our world. In our normal world.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes. So my kids, my daughter never liked her hair touching her for the longest. I would always, and even to this day, she still kind of wants it up. My son wants to put on his clothes, pants first, underwear first, and then his shirt. They don't like lotion. They don't like wearing shoes. They don't like lines on their body. You know how the seams of your clothes, if it's pressed against your skin, it'll leave a line on you? They absolutely hate that. Guess what? That was me as a child too. I just found ways to overcome it. Some kids can, some kids can't. But as a parent, I learned to adjust to it according to the way it makes them comfortable, because I know I was the same way. And I try to help them find alternative ways to deal with that area that's uncomfortable. If they can't have it the way, because all the time they're not with me. If there was someone else and her hair's on her shoulders and it's really distracting her, she can't focus on what the topic is about because her hair is touching her, she's lost the whole conversation. Because
and then if she says that, they're gonna think she's overreacting. You're just being sensitive, right?
Exactly. And we've been seen as, my children are seen as different, and that's okay, because different has bred so many intelligent people, So
Albert Einstein was neurodivergent. So,
and I have to tell the audience that's listening and that will be listening, I struggled with this for years in silence. And, it wasn't until I came across a shop, Asha, that, just in general, girlfriend conversation, sisterhood conversation, we're talking about syndrome or disorder, or however you want to categorize it, that it exists and it's okay, and it doesn't have to appear negative, has taken a lot of weight off my shoulders when it comes to organizing my everyday life. So for those of you who are out there who struggle with issues of people not understanding your lifestyle or how you order your life or how you conduct yourself or even your conversation, just know that it's okay. Everybody's not going to understand, but we're here to let you know that neurodivergency is a gift. That's what it is for me, because if all of us in the entire world thought the same and did the same, did the same things exactly alike, there's a movie like that. I don't know if it's called The Stafford Wives or something. It's something similar to
Mm-hmm.
that. But what world would we be in? You know, I think
Mm-hmm.
all the things that we have in this world that are productive and beneficial from us came from a neurodivergent person who thought outside the box. So,
Outside the
yeah,
box.
just think of neurodivergency as that. You think outside the box. And people who think outside the box get things done. I
Mm-hmm.
got through graduate school. I got through physician assistant medical school, and I think I did pretty good. And I wasn't made aware of that until I ran into Shakti. And Asha had to wake me up one day. She said, "Girl, do you know how much you have achieved?" And I'm thinking, like, I'm just going with the motions. Don't nobody know I have this issue, but yeah, I'm in school. I got this degree or whatever. She had to wake me up. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've done in your life. Look at how much you have achieved. And I had to sit back and like, wait, I did do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's why I said we have to be empowered
You
by a gift.
know, so
Your internet
it's
was pausing. I hear you. It's just breaking up.
important that we know about this and that we Asha, you still there?
Okay. You're clear now. I couldn't hear you.
There you go. You're back.
There you go.
Are you still here?
Yes, I am. Can you see me?
You got it?
Yeah.
Good. Wonderful. Yep, I can see you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Because you said some juiciness right there, but it was all distorted at that time. But I think I got the gist of what you were saying and where you are. So even with that, as we come to a closing, I think many people want to know, like, okay, so if I am, what do I do? And where do I go?
If you have any questions, they can either.
I think you're breaking up. Your spirit is taking over, shutting things down. Now I can't even hear you.
Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit too.
Oh, was I? Oh, so it's both. It's our frequency. It's our frequency. But I think in this and understanding, people want to know, like,
if they have any questions, they can always inbox. It's too high, too much frequency.
I know that's when you say how to get in touch with you. That's when it fades out. So I'll put it in the box. They can go to the website. They can see us. They can find us. If they ever want a consultation and just wanting to know how or what to do mentally, physically, or spiritually. But I would say getting an evaluation is fine. Don't worry about a label. Sometimes it's better to know than not know, so you would know how to treat it, how to address it, how those around you need to know how to address it, and who you are, instead of always growing up thinking you're different and your self-esteem being lowered and not feeling understood, or even more how to parent a child, those issues, because it can be very overwhelming if you're hypersensitive and they're hypersensitive. I'm pretty sure it could be a battlefield in the house. I know I've had to learn, with me being menopausal and having a 13-year-old in the stage of hormones implode, it's like I'm having to really learn and mirror, because I am being hyperstimulated. He's been, so it's like if I have to teach him emotional regulation, I have to be an example of it. So I think that's the energy of it. And this is where we begin. If it is genetic, then us having this education and awareness is where we begin the shift genetically with the next generations, and helping them to understand who they are, instead of thinking they think differently. Then allow them to think different and support how they think, because that's probably the new world.
Right.
Our way of thinking now is going to be an old antiquated way of world. So it's like they're coming programmed, whatever way that they are programmed is going to be for this new world. So this whole awareness and education to know how to support that mindset, one for ourselves, but also how to support others, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in the school. But holistic approaches can help, because I am one. We were talking about what you do. A lot of people do use medication to help with their ADHD. my hesitation sometimes right now, especially for the teens that are getting diagnosed with this, I'm not saying this medication is not needed or doesn't have its benefits, but if you're in a hormonal state, you don't really know what is what until those hormones are more balanced. So sometimes we want that quick fix because for a parent, they just out of control and I can't handle it. Put them on meds. But it's not really healing the issue. It's really suppressing a lot of things and not saying that it's not sometimes needed. I'm just cautious because what I'm seeing now is a lot of kids are being misdiagnosed because of this umbrella and how it's showing up. I'm seeing so many dealing with things and getting diagnoses of psychosis and paranoid schizophrenia and getting put on meds, and then come to find out they go to another doctor that assessed them and said, oh, that's the wrong meds. They're just ADHD. So my concern is we have to educate not only the community, but as professionals, continuing ed, it's important to go back and just as we were setting up for this, I'm doing my research and finding more information out that I was not aware of. And I think that's how we continue to grow, whether you get it from platforms like this, do your own self-research. Don't be scared of the labels and think, what is somebody going to say? What are they going to do? I don't want anybody to know. I've had people say, I don't want my job to know I have ADHD. And so I'm asking somebody, them knowing that right now is going to keep your job. Because if not, you get one more write-up, you out the door. Then we got a whole new therapy session we got to deal with at that point in time. So sometimes we got to release the ego to get the assistance that we need. It's no different, these kids and having the 504 plans in school. If you had a 504 plan in school or college, baby, you may need your plan at your job. It is okay. You want to keep your job. So it is important. And I just say, ladies, it could be menopause, it could be ADD, could be hormonal diet. I'm going to go back and things that we can do before we close up is, number one, I would say before meds or anything, check the diet. Right. Check the sugar, release that. Some of these dyes, the dyes are the worst thing for any neurodivergent person, even though that's what we love the most.
Right.
It's the worst thing. Lack of activity.
Exercise really helps me.
Level. Exercise is key. The less active, the less serotonin, and therefore that impacts other hormone, melatonin, which why neurodivergent like to be up in the middle of the night when they need to be sleeping and wake up in the morning irritable and moody and everything because their sleep patterns are off. And a lot of that deals with the hormones and structure, food. So anything you want to add from the medical side, because I know that was part of the reason why you left traditional medicine is because you felt medication was overused. So what are suggestions that you have? I know you said yoga,
get help. Go see a therapist. Talk to a therapist or a counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist. Talk to a friend. Talk to someone about your trauma. Release it. Let it go. Process it differently. That's what has helped me come to a lot of realizations that it's okay. It doesn't mean just step outside of the box where you've been labeled or you have fear of being labeled, like myself, and embark on new territory when it comes to finding out if you fall under this umbrella. And speaking of umbrellas, Asha has it behind us, so it looks like she's labeled me as schizophrenic and herself as dyslexia. Okay. And she got bipolar over my head and ADHD over her head, but it's all under the umbrella. If she move our faces, you'll see all the symptoms or diagnoses that fall under the umbrella of divergency. And it's okay if you fit under schizophrenic because you know something I don't know. We need to talk. We need to talk.
So they can see you. You're not labeled now.
That's right. Hey. You're not labeled.
You're not labeled now.
Remove the labels. And as far as from a medical standpoint, having operated on both ends, whether it's a conventional medicine or holistic, for me, exercise was a biggie, to calm down that ruminating brain that's always have so much going on, it just reminds me of one of those balls, a knitting ball or something that, you just never know. So exercising, I walk, I run, I do yoga's my baby, that has really helped usher me out of a lot of stressful moments. Drinking, keeping yourself hydrated with water, lemon water, cucumber water, cayenne pepper water, whatever's going to help boost your metabolism. Um, um, I like to tread lightly when it comes to prescription medication because I don't want to make anybody think that I'm against or I'm not an advocate for the medical providers that are out there, because there is space for everyone, but holistically. And the goal here is to release things that no longer serves us. So trauma don't serve us anymore. It'll leave us stuck. It'll leave us stagnant. It'll keep us blocked. So just finding the help, getting a good therapist like Asha. She's a wonderful therapist. She's a great friend. There's some other ones out there that you can talk to. Eating healthy, minimizing how much alcohol you take in. Journaling is good. Writing down your thoughts, coming to realization as you put down what's going on in your head, that helps me to come to many conclusions in the problems. Yeah, getting it out. Grounding, that's a favorite. Go out and hug a tree, do something different. That's different, ain't it? You see me out there hugging the tree, I don't care who see me now. I know where my energy, where I need to transmute some stuff, I know to go to one of them big oak trees out of the back. So yeah, there are many holistic ways that we can use to tackle.
And the thing, it's just the awareness to know how to put those accommodations in place is the key. And the more awareness we have, the more we can take control over our own healing and not have it as an excuse. And I think that was the end. What overall is to provide the education, to understand there are professionals with neurodivergent doctors, lawyers, attorneys.
And I like it. I'm happy. I'm not trying to be what we call normal anymore. I like where I am because it's
out the box. To me, that's out the box.
And I've succeeded a lot. I've accomplished a lot in my life, and I'm happy now that I have a name with it, and I'm happy with the way I operate. Yeah, it's different. I can no longer label it as hard anymore because I've accomplished a lot, and I'm happy where I am, and I encourage you to be so too. So I just want to say, okay, I'm not fitting in that norm anymore. I can just be my silly self.
As I always say, I'm not the average, and now I take ownership of not being the average or being different. So quirky, whatever you want to call it, that's what has helped me to be successful. Multitask, I got it down pat, boo. All that y'all see I'm doing, mine.
And I want to close.
I can't tie up the last. Everything is done. I just ain't tied up the shoes. I'm like,
right.
On the race with the shoes untied. It's always something unfinished. Like my friends, they get irritated with me because I'm the one that don't leave the tops on or don't put the tops on tight or leave those little quirky things that people, or I have to leave a little bit of food. They're like, why are you leaving it in the container? Eat all of it. I don't want all of it. Leave that in there. So all of that about myself, the quirkiness I love now. I am who I am. If anybody looking, does anybody have any questions? If you wanted to type in any questions about anything we said before we close out, any information, but hopefully those who do look at this and come back around, just the conversation. This is really just conversation around the topic to provide education in a topic that needs to be talked about more. So that's my role. We're going to talk about it. We're not going to hide about it. We got to get to the root issue, and the root is let's deal with our traumas. Let's stop putting the mask on. That is what's causing the mental health. Putting the mask on in the world to be this quote normal, and on the inside you're at conflict because that's not how your truth is. But your truth is going to be perceived as abnormal to others. I was asked, will we be doing this more? Feed with my neurodivergent self. My intentions is to do this monthly as I had before, and I got off track by other projects. So I am coming back around. She said possible a support group. I do feel that's need,
Right.
particularly for us moms, because I can say most of my clients that I have coming now are either at menopause life or they're dealing with kids. These special seeds, all this new generation coming in. We're learning a whole different way of parenting. I really say at this point in time, I don't parent. I'm really like a guide. It's kind of like what I feel in those anime shows where the parent just follows the child, whatever you need from the child. That's what I kind of somewhat feel, because they walk into their own beat, and it's causing me anxiety. But I have to realize this is this generation, so why suppress it? How can we enhance it to be positive? So hopefully, I'm glad this was good for you, Fee, and I do plan to do it more. And I do think you're right. We have to have support, those who are dealing with it and those who have family members with it. It's two different types of supports, in that. So the kids, if we are neurodivergent, Lord knows, when we look and we think they stressing us, y'all, really on the other side, we get on their nerves.
Right.
We
And
get on their nerves. And so I think that's the reality that we have to own up to sometimes as the parent, because at the end of the day, there's no handbook on we doing it right. So this is the point in time of taking awareness of what is occurring and not looking at it as shame or negative as we once had, and look at what we're dealing with and how we can adapt to it and transmute it. Because I really feel some of these kids have more knowledge for us than what we're giving them. We say they have old souls, but when they hit that 12 or 13, when those old souls start getting on your nerves and really be hitting on your toes about some truth, that's a whole nother topic we have to talk about then. So I think we will continue this and have more conversation. If there are other conversations you guys wish to have convo about, definitely let us know. Fiasa, you homeschool. You said you want to homeschool. I'm homeschooling mine. He goes to a co-op program where he still gets socialization. He doesn't have to get up early. It's like 10 to 3, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, Mondays and Fridays. They do their work and their assignments on their own. So for a child, just like last night, today was his first day. He couldn't go to sleep. He was up to 4 o'clock in the morning. And so that whole anxiety, anticipation, but I was glad he was not having to get up at 5 or 6 to get on the school bus, to go with kids and be overstimulated. And so if you can find programs of that nature, because I can't say I had to look at, if I'm a little neurodivergent, beneficial for me teaching him. Because if he get high strung and I get high strung, it's not going to be any teaching going on. So for me and the personality of my child and myself, I love the co-op, that they do the primary part, and I'm supportive. As always, academic, the rest of the academic should be done in the home. So that has been a win-win.
And I'm just the opposite. I do all mine. My kids have never been in public school. Yeah, I do my own. And because I feel personally, with my children being neurodivergent and having issues with sensory sensitivity, that they will get eaten alive in public school, being that they are different, they process different. So, and one is a logical learner and one is more hands-on, and that balances me. That really
and Fee, I would give one word advice for you is that I had to, because often when people will try to tell you what you should do, they need this socialization, Remember, your children, even though they may give us gray hairs, they chose you to be the parent. Why? Because whatever skills that you don't think you have, whatever you do have was perfect for them to be born. So it's tapping into that to trust. So at the end of the day, you said, I know my child and I don't think regular school is for him. Trust it. Trust what you get, because sometimes I feel we can do more harm trying to normalize them and putting them into a school that is not adapted for them. Because I'm like you. I know my child, and what he speaks upon has to go into an environment where he's supported and heard and not minimized.
Absolutely.
I'm very talkative and I can't be minimized, and that's why I don't work in any system. They'll be ready to throw me out because I do not conform. So therefore, our children are not conformance to the system. We buck the system, they're gonna buck harder. So it's like we got to be stable enough to understand they're bucking and not try to buck them because we don't feel control. So
Right.
it goes both ways. But I say trust yourself in the parenting, and if you know what your needs and what their levels of sensitivity, because it is real out here. These kids 9, 10, or 11 are saying they don't want to live. And we want to say, how can that be? They're just a child. They're not paying bills. They're not doing it, but they are highly sensitive. And so they know what doesn't feel good and what is hurt and how it doesn't feel. They're very emotionally sensitive. We want to say, oh, you soft. You said, no, that's a gift. We need more empathic people that sense those type of things. Because right now we got a lot of anti-social personalities out here. So I feel it's a changing of the guards that we have these sensitive children that really love bunnies and they're not being heard. They're
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where Asha, you know, she speaks of herself as someone who wants to talk and wants to be heard. And I know that y'all see her. Oh yeah, he bucks back even harder. I mean, he's so independent and he's so intelligent, you know, so I can see how regular school would probably picture someone with a voice, a healthy, normal voice, know what they want, know what they're capable of. I can see that they can put him in a category that may not be normal. Sit down and be heard. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And really has a lot to say, but just knowing when and
exactly. And with my kids, they're like me. You know, they're quiet, do what you said, be seen, not heard. And that's restricting their voice chakra.
Right.
And
that's
something that I don't want.
That balance. So
absolutely. So they balance. They found the balance here.
That she is happy. She wish she would have had this convo because she wouldn't feel so crazy. And that's the thing. We began to feel crazy in the comments. That's what one of the young ladies said. She said she would have listened to herself or the other son, but instead of saying certain things. And that is a thing of the words we may say is really us trying to get control of the situation, Fee, because we don't know what else to do. And this is where sometimes, and we talk about our childhood or what was done in our childhood, and sometimes we perpetuate the same thing because we know not. So I've had to catch myself sometimes on some things that I've seen and realized, I remember when this was said, or what my mom had said this to me. And I'm like, okay, I could have reeled that back in, because remember, as we talk about imprints and chakras, and we go back and deal with things that were said or done, we have to realize we're making imprints on them. What we say, even in our fit of anger that we're trying to get control, they're not hearing that we're trying to get control. They're hearing, this is what my mama said. And no different as our experience as children, some things our parents might have did and said that maybe they were neurodivergent and didn't have emotional regulation. And that's how things get passed on. How we parent comes from a lack of knowledge. So now that we have acquired this knowledge, we can be better parents.
All I knew is when it came to school and my children is that I didn't want to be overlooked. I didn't want them to be overlooked like I was, or categorized or put into a certain box, because I feel like that's what they're doing in school. I'm not sure about now, but when my nieces and nephew was going to school, when I was going to school, you were labeled. And I know my children are very intelligent. They may be sensitive kids, but they're very intelligent. And I didn't want them to be put in a box, a negative box. It's okay if they're neurodivergent, but I want them to know that there's a lot of superpowers behind it, because their mother is great. So they're going to be great too. So if anybody's going to shape my child's self-esteem and persona of who they are, it's going to be their mother. You know, it's not going to be someone else in the school who does not understand or who does not have knowledge when it comes to neurodivergency. So that was one of my reasons for opting, you know, to homeschool my children, which I thoroughly enjoy. Yes, it's a job having sensory sensitive kids who are on the neurodivergent spectrum and trying to have a job and having neurodivergency myself. But you can just imagine there's a whole lot of fun.
Even more why the benefits where we say having children in an environment like that, why our jobs can't be 9 to 5.
Exactly.
So I always say, be out the box, step out the box, live out the box, trust, and I will
throw away that word normal because it no longer exists. And just know, I think Kendrick Lamar said it better. They not like us.
There it is. All right, everyone. Thank y'all for joining. Hope you got something from this. If y'all need to find us, you can reach us at Ashakti Wellness for your holistic needs. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.